Do you have intentional time with Jesus every day? Let's talk about why you would, why you might not, and 3 tips for how to do it well with your kids in the house so that it actually disciples them while you are spending time with God.
Hey mamas, this is Playfully Faithful Parenting, and I'm your host, Joy Wendling. I'm a seminary grad and children's and family minister turned stay-at-home mom to my 5 girls. Spiritual parenting is my calling, and it's my passion to help other mamas disciple their kids using the power of play and their own authentic daily walk with Christ. If you're a mama who wants to introduce your kids to Jesus and watch as the Holy Spirit transforms their lives, this is the place for you. I'm so glad you're here. So let's dive in and see how we can partner with God today.
Welcome to Playfully Faithful Parenting. I am Joy, and so grateful that you have given up some of your time to spend here with me. I want to talk a little bit about quiet time. Now, I have 5 kids, and we've not done preschool, so they have all been home until they go to kindergarten, or now TK, transitional kindergarten for my 2 youngest. But my youngest has been home, right? So I have not had a daily time when I am just able to be alone, right? And my girls wake up some days between 4:30 and 5:30. They've been pushing 5:30, maybe 6 a couple times this summer, but they have this like magic awareness that if I wake up early, they wake up also. And so my twins are 7, and my oldest was not really an early riser, but the twins always have been. So for at least the past 7 years, plus the time when I was pregnant with twins, it has been a real struggle for me to wake up before everybody else in the house. And when I do, I'm not my best self. I'm not able to focus. I'm not able to think creatively. And I can't really do it late at night either. I'm just wiped then. My like prime time is the middle of the day. Like that 10 to 2 hour is like, yes, that's when I get in my zone. But when I've got kids here, that doesn't really work. So this typical quiet time expectation of so much of Christian culture is wake up before your kids, have your cup of coffee and journal and read your Bible. Guess what? I hate to journal. I don't drink coffee, and I don't want to wake up before my kids because that doesn't work for our family and for the way God created me. So I spent many years feeling shame and guilt over that until I realized that I don't need to compartmentalize God into those 30 minutes or an hour before everybody wakes up. God is just as present with me throughout the whole day, and I can spend intentional time with Him all day long. It doesn't have to be this compartmentalized quiet time. So if you are not a quiet timer, then fine. That is okay. But I have learned some ways that I am in the Word every day, and I do pray and I talk to God, and I play with God. That is my favorite spiritual discipline. And I listen to Christian podcasts, and I do all of those things. I don't journal, but God didn't create me to be a journaler, which is really odd because I'm a writer, but I don't like to journal. But anyhow, so God created us all differently. So if you want to do quiet times. There are some things that I've learned over the years to make that happen. And I do spend time that's not necessarily the stereotypical quiet time with God, not daily in this type of way, but multiple times a week. And I do spend daily time in the Word. I do spend daily prayer time, talking to God, and I spend intentional time with God, just not Bible study and quiet time. So 3 tips. So the first one is to be interruptible. And I've talked about this before. I'll put a link to the podcast. I did a whole episode on being interruptible. But Jesus had a whole ministry of interruptions, and healings and miracles. And there are several places throughout the Gospels where it says, as he was going, as he was doing this and this, and he gets interrupted, and he takes compassion on the people and he serves them in that. So Jesus was interruptible. And then our attitude, when we have this set aside time that we put on a pedestal and we're like, I'm not interruptible right now. Then when we do get interrupted by our children, that is going to trigger us more often, right? And so then, and I've done this, when I was trying to do the right culturally, appropriate shoulds, quiet times. And I would be like, I'm trying to spend time with God. And do you know what message that sends when I get triggered during time with God because my kid needs something? God knows the ministry he's given us and our children and our families. And so he's not surprised when we're interrupted. And I should not be surprised when I'm interrupted. I live a life of interruptions. So I don't know why it surprises me sometimes. But I've learned that as I focus on intentionally being interruptible, I'm not as easily triggered by interruptions. And then I'm not unintentionally setting my kids up to have thoughts like, oh, mommy's really cranky when she spends time with God. Oh, spending time with God makes mommy mean. I don't want to spend time with God if that's how you're going to act, right? And so my attitude disciples my children and nurtures their faith and models for them this, the outcomes of times with God. And so if we're being triggered by interruptions or even not allowing interruptions, then I just think that we might be sending messages that we're not intending to send to our kids. All right, the second tip is to invite the quiet, but welcome the noise. Again, at 5 girls, my house is rarely quiet. And even throughout the night, we have sound machines and instrumental music playing like all through the night. So our house does not know what quiet is. And I am an introvert and I have tinnitus. And so I crave quiet. And I don't get it as much as I would like. But I know that God knows what is going on in my home. And he gave me this home. He gave me these kids. He gave me their noise. And so invite the quiet, teach my kids as it's developmentally appropriate to enjoy and to embrace quiet, but forcing quiet doesn't work with my family. And it might work with your kids, but it might not. It might also send again a message that I can't bring my full self, my full energy, my full volume to God. And that's not a message I want to send to my kids. And the second part of invite the quiet, welcome the noise. I saw a reel a couple weeks ago that talked about the beauty of allowing kids to be loud and the impact that has on their personality and their identity and their feeling of safety. And as a Connected Families parent coach, knowing the foundation and the message there of you are safe with me, allowing children to be loud, that doesn't mean all the time, but when it's possible, allowing them to be loud helps them to feel safe. And when we can bring that into even my time with God, and I can welcome that noise, then my kids can experience that they can bring their full selves to God. And the third tip is let go of expectations. Often we have these expectations for quiet time, for time with God, that they're going to be this powerful, really productive time. And any questions that I've been wrestling with, God's going to give me the answer. Or even if I don't hear from God in the way I expect, I am going to make it through this whole chapter today and read another chapter of an extra book. And I'm going to journal 2 pages and XYZ, right? We have these expectations. And while they are good, when we fail at them because of other people, because we keep getting interrupted and we reread the verse 19 times instead of reading 19 verses, and we get frustrated by that because we had these expectations, then we are losing out on joy. And Psalm 16:11 says, in your presence is abundant joy. And so when we can release expectations, we can experience more joy. And it's not about what we expect to get out of it, but what God brings to it. And just being in his presence. Being in his presence is abundant joy. And so no expectations needed except that I'm going to show up and God's going to show up. Then it also brings joy to our kids when we can let go of these high expectations, because it, again, is going to make us more pleasant. And we're going to experience joy, and then that's going to overflow into our kids. And they're going to see us having joy, and then they're going to be like, hey, spending time with God gives my mom joy. I want that. Right? Okay. And then finally, in letting go of expectations, it allows God to experience joy. He just wants to be with us. And we see that because he sent Jesus, his only son, to walk on the earth with us. After years and years and years of failure, over and over and over, he still wanted to be with us. And so he came down as Jesus himself. And I believe that he created us all to engage with him differently and to enjoy him differently. So when we can let go of expectations of what culture tells us a quiet time is supposed to look like, and instead do something like play that we enjoy with God, then I think God's joy is multiplied because he sees us experiencing his joy and having joy with him. And so then he, in return, is experiences more joy for spending time with you, enjoying him, if that makes sense. So one of my favorite things to do when I am spending intentional time with God is watercolor paints. I'm not good whatsoever, but I just enjoy it. And so when I when I'm not at church on Sundays, when I don't go to church for whatever various reasons, I will often listen to a sermon, put on some worship music, and then I'll paint and spend time in the Word and praying. But I spend a lot of time doing paint. And so that is a way that I enjoy spending time with God. But if I felt like I had to live up to the expectations of journaling and Bible study and coffee before the kids wake up, that wouldn't happen. And I would be missing out on joy. My kids would be missing out on the overflow joy. And God would be missing out on me really enjoying time with him, which I know with my own kids, I enjoy my time with them more when they're enjoying the time too, right? So those are my 3 tips for you to use quiet time to disciple your kids and for you to enjoy it more. So again, they are: be interruptible, invite the quiet, but welcome the noise, and let go of your expectations, whether they're yours or somebody else's. So mamas, next month, we are doing a full month all about Bible 101, how to teach our kids to use the Bible, the meta narrative, the big story of the Bible, some of my favorite Bible resources. And there's going to be a workshop coming up on how to pick a children's storybook Bible. So all of that will be in September. This month, I just want to shout out God real quick. There are a few things that I missed in celebrating, and I love celebrating. So let's do a quick celebration. This month was 3 years of this podcast earlier in August, and we also hit 200 episodes and over 27,000 plays, downloads. So all of that is worth celebrating what God is doing. And I am just grateful for each of you. Please leave a review and tell me what has been your favorite episode. With bonuses and all of that, there's well over 200 episodes. So mamas, again, thank you for spending time. Have a great week. And on behalf of God, thank you for loving and playing with his kids. Bye now.
Well, mamas, that's it for today. Thanks for joining me on Playfully Faithful Parenting. I'd love to keep the conversation going over on the socials. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you felt encouraged or equipped by today's show, do me a favor and leave a review. I can't wait to hear your story. Till next week, keep playing and pointing those littles to Christ.